This is John Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'm going to finally unbox the best way to vacuum store your juices, wet goods, dry goods, cooked goods, produce, in mason jars. And that's in this box here by the Pure Juicer Company, who has been making some of the highest end juicers in the United States for many years now. And now they're making the highest end best vacuum pump money can buy. Throw away all those cheap garbage ones from China, from Amazon, and now you guys want to buy the Pure vacuum pump because number one, it pulls the most vacuum pressure, is the easiest to pull, and as you guys are going to find out, is literally the best system out there. So I just got it in the mail. For those of you guys that were on the Indiegogo and already got your kits, post down below what you think of the Pure pump. Like, to me, it's light years ahead of any other pump I've used to date. And if you missed out on the Indiegogo, that's all right, because Pure now has these in stock on their website. The website is, if you go to bit.ly/PureMVP to get there, and make sure you guys use the coupon code DJ5. That will save you guys $5 off any kit over $100, and of course, when you spend over $100 with Pure, you also get the free shipping. All right, so anyways, let's go ahead and unbox this and show the guys what you could get, and they have a lot of things. So unboxing the Pure MVP vacuum pump for the first time. As you guys can see, this is what is included. Now, I got the full kit, guys. I got like one of every different thing because I want to show you guys all the different parts. You can order just this thing. You could order this separately. You could order the lid separately. It's all up to you. After I unbox it, I'll share with you guys my recommendations on what you should purchase to save the most money and get the best use of your dollars. Anyways, the main component of the whole kit is the Pure MVP vacuum pump. This is the one you definitely want to buy. Next up, we got 6 lids with the valves with the organizer. Next up, we got the organizer with another 6 lids. I think these are the flat lids. These are the valve lids. And then we have a Pure MVP pump adapter, right? Some of these you may not need, and some I feel are definitely more important than others. So anyways, let's go ahead and start unboxing these items to show you guys what they're all about. All right, first up, guys, the Pure MVP vacuum pump. Now, here's the thing, guys. I talked to David, the owner of Pure Juicer Company, who makes the highest end, most expensive home juicers in the United States out of all stainless steel. And now they're making the best vacuum pump. You know, they're basically an engineering company at heart. They're not the best marketing company out there, but they are definitely good engineers. And this pump is designed for the MVP. That stands for maximum vacuum pressure. And it does not fail on that. This is more powerful than any electric or manual vacuum pump I've ever tested. All right, so unboxing it, check it out. This is like a high quality box for a high quality pump. Inside here, you get a little instruction booklet. Definitely wouldn't agree with everything printed in the instruction booklet, but we're not going to talk about that. And next, you guys can see we have the pump right here. And this is a quality pump, guys. So let's go ahead and pull out the pump. So here is the pump, and this is made of aircraft quality aluminum. The whole pump itself, as well as the handle. And then the shaft here, which is actually nice and thick. This is definitely an improvement over the prototype model that I originally showed in my Indiegogo video. Link down below if you guys want to watch that one. This is a thicker stem on the pump, and this stem is 100% stainless steel. They also use the Viton rubber seals inside there, which you guys know Viton rubber, for those guys that are into like diesel in cars, like those are some of the high-end seals that they use, you know, for diesel that like don't degrade and last forever. Of course, all these parts can be taken apart, so you could actually unscrew this should it break and put on a new one. This is basically all user serviceable. You could actually unscrew this if you need to get in there and clean it. If you should get some liquid in there. And of course, the other thing I want to let you guys know about is that when you get the pump, there is a pump cap on the bottom. This is so that dust and debris don't get in there. And it will not work if you have the cap on it, so make sure you pull this cap off. You will see the little silicone gasket here on the bottom. It's green, and that will allow you to make a good seal on whatever you are pulling vacuum out of, whether that is a vacuum bag or a vacuum lid or other vacuum container. All right, so that is the pump. Next up, you got this little contraption here. This little contraption is a mason jar adapter. This is only required, guys, if you guys want to use the flat lids. It also has a built-in valve, unlike any other mason jar sealer out there. I'll compare this in a little bit to regular mason jar sealers and explain why this is a much better, properly engineered and designed sealer. In addition, inside the mason jar sealer, you also get basically, looks like to me like a bottle cap opener. They call it a lid opener because when you do seal a lid on using the mason jar adapter, it is stuck on so hard with so much vacuum that you're really not going to be able to pry it off, especially if you got nails. So you will need to use this little key thing to get it removed. All right. Next up, we got the standard lids with the organizer and the trim rings. So we're going to go ahead and pull this out. You guys can see it comes in a nice little organizer thing. To me, like, I mean, honestly, I'll never use this organizer. The thing I want inside this box are the lids. And let's go ahead and pull these lids out. So I think there's a total of 6 lids here. And these are 100% stainless steel 304 lids with nice silicone gaskets built in. There is no printing on the bottom side. This is basically laser etched in there. No coatings, just 304 stainless steel touching your food. These are not made for canning, it says right here, but they are for vacuum storage. The best lids for vacuum storage and just storing your food in general. So you have 0 plastic contact and 0 BPA contact. In addition, these lids are at least twice as thick as normal lids. Like I can't sit here and bend this lid. It's really thick. So these are made once again for vacuum sealing. The other thing that's very important is that there is no glue that glues these silicone gaskets onto the stainless steel. They're literally put in the machine and they're basically molded at the same time, just like literally pressed in during the manufacturing process. This is the safest way to store your food. So in this box, there are 6 of these lids here. And then you got 6 of the trim rings, which just look to be like standard trim rings. And then a little holder thing here. So yeah, I mean, whatever. I'm not a big fan of the holders. And then you got a box that is fully recyclable. All right, next up, this is the box I'm more interested in. This has the organizer with 6 valve lids, right? To use these flat lids, you will absolutely need this adapter plus this key. With the valve lids, you don't need the adapter or the key. That's why I like them a lot. Inside this, you're going to get a little Ziploc with some lids and some valves. I'll show you guys how to use those. In addition, you're going to get another organizer thing with the trim rings. So, you know, for me, like, use the trim rings that came with your mason jars. Those are pretty good quality. If you guys get like just trim rings off Amazon, a lot of those are very poor quality. I could say that these trim rings fit all the different mason jars without giving you problems. That being said, really the value here, the thing that is unique and different are the lids. Whether you got the stainless steel lids or the valve lids, which is what I prefer. So let's go ahead and open this up and take out all these parts, show you guys what we got. So basically inside here we have these little silicone valves, and then we have the lids. The lids are basically identical to the flat lids, except they have a hole punched in the middle, precision hole. You take one of these valves and the side that has no holes, that has a little bump on it, is facing up. You then put this into the lid, and there's like two lines. The top line, then there's a second line. The second line on the down, you just want to like stick in this little hole here. It's very important. And then what you could see, if you get this in right, if you could see, you can move this up and down. This allows the air to be sucked out. As the air sucking out, the valve goes up, and when you're done sucking air, the valve will be sucked in due to the vacuum pressure. So let me go ahead and real quick assemble all these lids. All right, so we got all the lids ready to go. Now let me show you and demonstrate how this whole kit works. All right, so we got a mason jar, now discontinued, unfortunately. This is my favorite mason jar, the 24 ounce, the glass a little bit thicker. So anyways, if we're using the flat lid, how you need to use a flat lid to vacuum it on a mason jar, you're going to take the flat lid, put it into, wow, this fits really tight, guys, into the adapter. You're then going to go ahead and drop the adapter on. Wow, this gasket on this adapter has got to be like the best gasket ever. Like it really seals good, guys. Then you're going to go ahead and take your pump, drop it right into the middle. It fits in. There's only one way to put it. This is a good solid connection here. Now you're just going to pump it. And what's happening, every pump, you're sucking oxygen out of the mason jar. All right, I pumped it about 10 times, and now I'm feeling a good amount of resistance on the jar. You know, the more you pump, the more oxygen is removed up to a point. You know, if you keep pumping and it's still the same amount of resistance and the resistance doesn't increase anymore, then you've achieved MVP, or maximum vacuum pressure, or to put it simply, the most oxygen removed out of the jar. Oxygen removal is very critical for food preservation, especially when you are preserving things like juices. We want to remove all the oxygen. The dissolved oxygen and the oxygen in the headspace will degrade the juice and allow things like mold to grow. You know, if you like, I put things in the Instant Pot, then I store it under vacuum, right? After it's cooked, it's sterilized. I put it in here, pull the air out, it is still sterilized. And now because there's no air in there, things like mold can't grow as quickly. And it's rare that I have any food that I have been heat processed and then goes in mason jars under vacuum go bad. I'll even store it for 2-3 weeks, right? Once again, this is not a substitute for long-term storage or canning for wet goods. Of course, you can use this for dry goods to prevent oxidation of things like grains and beans and dried fruits, of course, okay? So then we're going to go ahead and instead of just pulling this off, they have a relief valve, something that no other a jar adapter has. So now we're going to press the relief valve and listen carefully. The air sucks back in, and now we could easily remove our mason jar adapter and our pump, okay? And then we have this lid that's secured on due to vacuum pressure. I'm going to estimate there's maybe like 85% of the oxygen removed out of this jar now. And then now if I try to take my fingers and try to pull it off, like I'm really gonna, I could finally do it, all right? Most of you guys might be able to do it, and that's where you will need the key to basically lift this up. And the cool thing is, because these lids are twice as thick, you are unlikely or almost impossible to bend the lid as you raise it up. This is not something that's going to happen if you use traditional mason jar lids that are quite thin, all right? So that's how you use these flat lids. You know, I'm not a big fan because you got to use this to pull it off. I mean, the thing I will say is that these are more solid on there. You know, once these are on, they're pretty much not going to leak. Especially with the trim ring on it. So for a long-term food storage, when you don't got to get in and get out, it might be good. Maybe if you got to travel and you're going to take your juice or your vacuum sealed food with you, could be good. That being said, I prefer the simplicity of the valve lids. Once on the valve lids, it's a much easier process, guys. You just need the valve lid, put it on there, center it up. Then you put the pump on there. It has an indentation to let you know where exactly to put the pump. Then you just pump. I mean, the same amount of times. All right, now we can pull this off. And this is fully stuck on there. Now, instead of like trying to pry this off or use a tool, right? We don't even need to do that. All you need to do is take your finger, take this little valve, and listen carefully. As the air rushes back in, just put it to the side. Now you can remove the top. You know, so... You know what I'll tell you guys honestly is that if you guys are just storing juices and things for short-term use, I'd recommend only the lids with the valves. That way, all you need to do is buy the lids, buy the pump, and you guys are all set. If you guys want to use the flat lids, then you guys got to buy the adapter, and then you get the tool, and then you got to just, you know, deal with all this. So in some instances, you may like the flat lids better. While you could use the flat lids that come with the mason jars with this adapter and this tool, I don't recommend that because you're going to end up damaging them. And I'll explain more about this when I compare the pure lids to just standard and vacuum sealed valve lids. All right. So I had Pure Juicer Company basically make a package for my people because they didn't have this. They always sold their kits with like the, you know, organizer, all these other things like I don't really need because I already have lids, rings, and all these other things. So I basically had to come up with a package with just the pump, which is the essential component. The other essential component are the lids with the valves. That's what I recommend you get. It just makes life a lot simpler than dealing with adapter and all these other things. And they have a kit basically with 12 valve lids and the pump itself. And you guys can get that with free shipping. And once again, use that coupon code DJ5. We'll save you guys a $5 off that entire kit. And you could have the best vacuum pump and 12 jar lids that'll definitely go a long way. That can be reused indefinitely to store your food. Okay? And I want to thank you guys who will use my coupon code and link. When you guys use the coupon code and or link, Pure will share me a small commission so I can continue to make these educational videos and do a lot of testing that you're literally not going to see on other channels. Most YouTube channels might stop here and just basically present to you what Pure is making, but I'm not like leaving this to chance, guys. What we're going to do next is we're going to compare the Pure lids to standard lids, and then we're going to compare the Pure pump to other pumps that you could buy on Amazon. You know, these are kind of testing that other people will not do because, you know, here's the thing. Like, I do all this for me because I want to know the best. I'm going to use the best. And then I want you guys to know that too because so many people get shammed by buying cheap garbage on Amazon from China that, okay, it kind of works, but it's just not as good as it could to preserve the most nutrition, remove the most air, to prevent the most mold, to prevent the most oxidation and rancidity happening to your expensive organic nuts, seeds, herbs, dried grains, and beans. All right? All right, guys, so I got a number of lids here that I want to compare with you guys. First off, I just want to compare the Pure stainless steel lid, no valve, to like a ball jar lid. You know, some of the early ball jar lids did contain BPA on the coating. Also, of course, this is basically painted on here, so if you could scratch this and the paint could come off into your food. In addition, what I will tell you guys after vacuum sealing a long time, multiple times, right, these red gaskets on here, if you are pulling a strong vacuum, if you pull a weak vacuum, it's not going to be a problem. But if you pull a weak vacuum, basically these get pressed in, and even when you do pressure canning, these literally lids get sucked in, but it's not with a lot of pressure. So you're really not exerting a lot of force on the gaskets, which then means they don't really get messed up, right? That being said, when you guys put a strong vacuum on it, pull out a lot of air, it literally forces the lid into the jar. And I don't know if you guys can look in there and see that, but there's like a little indentation, like it goes down because I've sealed this so hard into the jar, it really messes up the gasket. So, you know, using high pressure vacuum and these lids will start leaking over time. Maybe after 6 to 12 uses is what I found. Of course, your results may vary. And then, of course, you're just going to have to buy replacement lids, right? I highly encourage you guys to buy things right the first time. Get the stainless steel lids if you guys want to use the ones without the valves. The other thing is, of course, is that these just bend. Look at this. This is so cheap. It just bends. Then they're garbage. I mean, actually, that one was rusting. You know, this, like, I can't even bend it, guys. Like, these are totally strong, twice as thick, all right? So that shows you that the non-valve lids are definitely the better buy, all right? Next up is the area that I'm more interested in, because while I will use the non-valve lids for long-term storage of my dry goods, beans and grains and things, for short-term storage in the fridge of my juices, heat-processed foods, smoothies, fruits and vegetables, I use these valve lids. And trust me, guys, I've been using these valve lids longer than probably anybody else on YouTube that still makes videos. The first valve lids I got were these, the Thrifty Vac. I think the company's out of business now. But these ones were actually decent. The issue with these is that these are aluminum, so these are the same material that the standard mason jar lids are made out of. In addition, they are painted, so they can scratch. In addition, this gasket material is like a white gasket, but it's like a thin gasket. So while it's better than the red gaskets, I found out this wore out over time. Plus, because this is aluminum, every time I put it on here and I pump a lot of vacuum on it, these lids would flex. So the second iteration of these Thrifty Vac lids actually were like this. They actually didn't say Thrifty Vac, and they have pretty much the same gasket material, but they had no painting on the bottom, which I like. But then you guys could see, like, literally, if you look at this, it's literally like there's all these creases in it, because literally every time I'd suck it down, it would start to bend because the lid could not handle the high vacuum pressure that I would exert on it with my pumps that I use, all right? And then what happens after this? These are expensive, and then you're just going to have to keep throwing these away and buying these more. These are actually in my bad pile, so I don't even use these, all right? What came out next were these lids, which were pretty good. They're basically like using a similar design as the center, which is a little plastic piece that kind of moves up and down. It has a little gasket on there. The challenge with these lids is that the gaskets are thicker. These are the stainless steel. It's actually pretty thick. It's actually a decent lid. I never bent these. The gasket's pretty good. I have had gaskets detach on me, so then the lid will no longer work. The main issue I had with these is that if you look closely on it, you're like, John, that stainless steel doesn't look stainless. It looks stainless on this side. It's reflective. On this side, it kind of looks yellow. That's because they have a coating on here that basically would peel off into my juices, into my stored foods. In addition, the other thing I will say about this little plastic piece, right? This plastic piece has all these nooks and crannies that you will never be able to get clean should you pull food up through the valve, right? So some of mine have like grounded food. I spray high pressure water in there unless you want to take out the valve and soak it in some kind of OxyClean. You're never going to get these entirely clean, which may lead to food contamination. Once again, that's why when we look at the Pure, right? Once again, these have the best silicone gaskets, thickest stainless steel, no paint or printing on the underside that is laser etched in there, and these use a removable silicone valve that is removable, that's not going to collect dirt and debris, that you could easily take out and clean. All right, so then the next lid that I got was like, I was thinking, man, it's an improvement, right? So I went from this lid to this lid, which now instead of having a middle that's plastic, it has a middle that's stainless steel. And I was like, wow, that's cool. I think I like these. But then I started trying to use these, and then I found that these don't seal well. Also, these ones did not have the coating. But then I found that these ones did not seal well, and the valve would just leak. So then, like, what good is a vacuum seal lid if it leaks, right? Not good at all. And then finally, like, now there's cheap versions of these vacuum lids coming out. Basically, what you're looking at here is another cheap one. If you guys want to get any of these cheap lids, I don't care which ones you guys buy. I want you guys to have all the information. And if you guys don't have a lot of money, hey, get the cheap ones. Links down below to my Amazon shop. They're a fraction of the price, of course, of the Pure lids. But once again, these guys are disposable. Here's the cheapest lids with a silicone center, which actually I do like. It actually works quite good. What I don't like is that they are using the old-fashioned red gasket material that under high pressure, like I'm going to show you with the Pure pump, will wear out over time. It'd be 8 to 12 uses. The other thing is that they have this white on the bottom, which is painted on, which may contain BPA. Hopefully they don't. Plus, of course, these lids are aluminum, and they're easily, look at that, I just bent that and just damaged it. And now you basically just got to throw this away because it's never going to work again. So, you know, here's the thing, guys. You guys could buy disposable. You guys could buy cheap if you guys don't have the money. But if you guys have the money, right, buy good, right? A lot of you guys buy things that are good. You guys buy a good pair of shoes. You know, you buy like a good phone, not some cheap, unknown brand that's going to last. And good things last you. That is what you guys are going to get when you guys get the Pure vacuum lids. Thickest silicone, you know, 304 stainless steel, safe, non-toxic, silicone and no printing or paint on the bottom. Once again, laser etched, all right? So that shows you guys the differences about the lids and why the pure lid is simply the best lid out there. All right, guys, next up, let's go ahead and talk about the pumps. So you guys can see we've got a bunch of pumps here. You know, I know a lot of people are lazy and they don't even want to pump anything up. I will say that of all the manual pumps I've used, the Pure is the easiest one to pump. And I would say, you know, build some muscles, guys. This does not take a lot of effort to pull up. It's been designed so it's the easiest to pump because that is the least resistance when you're pulling. Plus it has an air relief valve and all these other cool things they did in the engineering to make it easier to pull up than other just manual cheap pumps you can buy. And I know because of this, most people won't buy a manual pump. They'll get an electric pump. And you know, hey, electric pumps work, but what they don't tell you is that they never rate the pump on how much oxygen removal or KPA the pump will remove. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys here today. The main thing is that, you know, you want to remove the most oxygen. If you don't remove that much oxygen, there's still oxygen in the container that can oxidize, spoil your food, and cause mold to grow. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pumps that I sourced on Amazon. If you guys want links to these pumps, links down below to my Amazon shop so that you guys could buy these cheap pumps. That being said, I'm going to share with you guys what other people that promote these cheap pumps, because like, oh, this is cool, it fits right in a mason jar. I'm going to show you guys why you don't want to buy these cheap pumps, all right? So I think first up, we're going to do a marshmallow test to show you guys how much each of these pumps can suck. All right, so I'm set up with basically 3 mason jars with like the jumbo extra large marshmallows in there because I want to show you guys basically the more the vacuum pump can pump out, the more the marshmallow gets larger, number one. And number two, when it's done, because we have pulled out the oxygen, which fluffs up the marshmallow, once we let the vacuum or the air back in, it's going to shrink down because we pulled out the oxygen from the marshmallow. So we're going to see how much oxygen is pulled out with each of these pumps. So the first pump we're going to use is this small electric pump from Amazon. Next up, we're going to put on this electric pump that basically just goes over the top of the mason jar, which there's a lot of them that look like this, all different kinds. I'll be testing another one in a little bit. And then the last one, we'll be using the Pure vacuum pump here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and press the button on this pump. Press the button on that pump. You guys can see the marshmallows growing. Hopefully this is making a good seal. The marshmallows growing. Now we're going to start pumping this, all right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. I don't think it's getting any larger. As you guys can see, this one got larger, and then this one, although the pump is running, like it barely even got larger. All right, so this has been running a while. Doesn't auto shut off. Let's go ahead and take this pump off. Take this pump off. Take this off. And you guys can see the differences in the marshmallows on the close-up shot. Okay. And wow, this one really didn't like suck that much oxygen at all. And so let's go ahead and let the air back in. So letting the air out of the first small pump. You guys can see it shrunk back. Out of the second pump, wow, there's barely any oxygen removed out of that pump. And then out of the Pure pump, wow, the most. Oh my gosh, guys, look at the major difference on that. This thing destroyed the freaking marshmallow. You can see it on the close-up picture. This thing is just tiny now, you know, because not a lot of oxygen was pulled on these, right? They basically went back to the same shape they were, right? Nice and fluffy, but this literally destroyed, like, this is now like not a fun marshmallow because it's just basically all compacted, right? That is the power the more vacuum that you pull can make, you know? So that's a simple demonstration so you guys can see with your eyes, but we're just not going to take this demonstration and leave it at that. I have a special meter that I'm going to be testing and show you guys how much each of these vacuum pumps that I bought from Amazon can pull, especially compared to the pure pump. So we're set up for our next test, and what I've done is I have a meter that is normally used in air conditioning to measure pressure. And so if you guys want to buy a tool like this so you could do your own testing at home to verify that your pump, how much it can suck, how much oxygen is removed, you guys could do it. Link down below to my Amazon shop to buy my very meter. You have to plug up this one side with a cap, and then you're going to basically turn it on and press the diff button. So that's going to show the difference between these two sides. We have a light that turns on for just a small amount of time. We're going to go ahead and then put it in our 24-ounce mason jar. What we're going to do next is just put a vacuum lid on. And we're going to take our cheap pump from Amazon. I think this came with some lids for, I don't know, $10 or $20. Put it on, press the button. As you guys can see on the close-up shot, the number is rising. So the goal is here, you want to have the highest number closest to 100. If you get to 100, which is impossible basically, you have 100% oxygen removal or reduction. So in this case, we are currently at about 40% oxygen reduction. Let's see what we're at total. We're here at, well, 48.4% oxygen removal. One of the things I do, I like to take it off, put it back on, and then pump it again. See if we can get it to go a little bit higher. And as you guys can see, this pump is maxing out at 48.5. So not bad, 48.5 for this cheap Amazon pump. Let's go ahead and reset our test rig. Next up, we're going to go ahead and try this other electric pump. Let's see if it pulls out more than the other pump, which is 48. This pump is a lot more quiet. Seems to go a lot more slowly. And let's go ahead and give you guys a close-up on the actual number it's pumping out. Alright guys, it looks like it's maxed out at like 54.4, something like that, 54.2, so not a bad deal. You get more than half the oxygen removed with this pump. Once again, links down below to Amazon. Let's go ahead and reset our test rig. Next up, we're going to go ahead and use one of these contraptions. You know, I really discourage you guys from buying one of these contraptions. I know they're all the rage and they're flooded on Amazon. You know, here's the thing with these guys is that if it doesn't have a good gasket, right, then it's not going to make a good seal. And even if the pump's very strong, which it probably isn't, you're not going to get, you know, good results. So let's go ahead and turn this on, and in our marshmallow test, this pump did the worst. So we're going to go ahead and put that on the top and press the start button. Alright, the pump has a high-pitched noise. It's coming on, and let's see, what are we at? You guys can see the number is going up ever so slowly. Alright guys, so this pump has ran for a long time, and we're pretty much at 8, right? So we're going to go ahead and stop it and pull it off. And basically the lid comes off, right? So, like, I don't know what's up with this. Let's see if I could just do another test. We're going to test it on my cheek or something. Alright, yeah, so I don't know what's up with this, if it leaks or whatnot. But definitely not a good design. Let's see if I just test the pump alone on my cheek. Well, it sucks pretty good. I don't know how much it's sucking here. Let's see. Alright, so the pump's good. So what I'm going to say is that this gasket here is just terrible. It's not making a good seal, not allowing the pump to pump out. So actually what we're going to do is we're going to use this pump alone with without the adapter, using just this seal here. So let's see if we can get this to go. Alright, there we go. This pump is finally working. I'm going to say this gasket is just really a terrible gasket, guys. right, as you guys can see, this pump got out to about 55. Let's go ahead and stop it, pull it off. And actually, it's we're 43 anyways. I've seen it get up to 55, but nonetheless, this gasket is just terrible, and you got to use it like this, which is really not optimal. And I want to talk about gaskets for a minute. So, you know, here's the gasket on this, you know, supposed to be built-in one that really leaked and was not good. And then, of course, the standard, you know, jarred top to mason jar to vacuum is like the food saver, the classic one. And then here is the pure one. So this is if you're doing flat lids. Once again, I only recommend the valve lids. You guys can see the gasket, of course, on this one just failed completely. And, you know, we don't know how good this gasket is. Plus, the tolerances on mason jars, whether they're made in China or the USA, may be a little bit different. And so, I mean, at least the food saver jars are decent, but there's no relief valve, and there's no place to definitely put in the pump. Once again, on the pure, right, this gasket goes over the jar with no hindrance from the outer plastic, right? Very important. This allows you to get a good seal. It also means that you're going to have a little bit more of a struggle pulling it off, but you're going to get the best vacuum seal. Of course, this also is an area for the pump to go in, something that this lid does not have, and this has a relief valve. When you're pulling it off, you can do the relief valve to pull this easily off. So if you guys want to use some kind of gasket thing, I would say definitely get the pure adapter. That being said, I would say save your money and just go for the standard lids with the valve and just use the pump. Like these things just make an easy idea too much more complex than they need to do. Plus, when you're using these, you're generally using flat lids that then are being bent. This one, as I showed, pulls about up to 55% oxygen removal. All right. Next up, let's go ahead and check this vacuum lid. It's more of a streamlined flat lid. Let's go ahead and put this on and press it. I do like that this is more compact, but let's see how much oxygen it can remove. Alright, so it looks like this lid is removing like 54.2% oxygen. So it looks like all these electric pumps pull between like 50 and 60. Definitely the best one was this, you know, tall one. But that's still, to me, not enough vacuum, right? This is why I don't recommend electric pumps. Next up, we're going to go ahead and test a manual pump from Amazon. Once again, guys, like this is a cheap plastic pump. This is glued on. I've had these tops come off. This is like a cheap, I mean, look at this. The play in that is incredible. There's like one like seal inside there, and basically should you break this is basically disposable, right? The warranty on Amazon stuff like this is like 30 days because you could return it within 30 days for a full refund from Amazon. After that, you're out of luck. Of course, this is a lot less than the pure, and if you don't have the money for it, this may be a viable option. Anyways, let's go ahead and check out how powerful this manual pump is. And I will say, when you pump this, I mean, it's pretty wonky, guys. Like, this thing kind of goes, like, sideways on you. And if you do it a little bit sideways and not straight up and down, you're not going to achieve a good pump. So, you know, here we are pumping it, and it is taking a lot of effort. I'm feeling a lot of resistance because this is a fatter throw, and then it's a lot shorter, whereas this is a lot more narrow and tall. So the volume of air you're moving is a lot more. That means it's going to be a lot more difficult to pump out. That being said, with this pump, I was able to achieve 65. Let's go ahead and pump it another 5 times, and it's getting real hard to pump here, guys. You guys don't want to be doing that unless you need a workout too. Let me see. We got up to 66. So we got 66% oxygen removal, which is more than any of these electric pumps, right? So that's pretty decent. Let's go ahead and reset our test rig back to 0. And now we're going to go ahead and test the pure MVP vacuum pump. Stands for, once again, maximum vacuum pressure. All right, let's put that on and let's go ahead and pump it. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a lot easier to pump. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. right, I did about 40 pumps. Maybe some of that was unnecessary. But as you guys can see, we got up to 78% oxygen removal, which is quite impressive. So that's a minimum of 10 more than the other pumps, okay? So, you know, here's the thing, guys. You need to remove a minimum amount of oxygen for your juices to be stored properly, to remove the excess oxygen out of your juices. So I want to go ahead and demonstrate that next. All right, guys, so next up I want to show you guys the difference that vacuum can make by basically using the pure vacuum pump and electric vacuum pump that perform fairly well, actually. So what we're going to do is we got some fresh made cucumber jicama lemon juice that I made. And we're going to try to pour basically a half into each jar. This was made in the Huram H70 slow juicer. All right, so to me, this looks like we got even amounts of juice. Next up, we're going to go ahead and take two pure vacuum valve lids. Throw that on the top. Next up, we're going to go ahead and take our vacuum pump. That's electronic. You just basically put it on and press the button. And I want you guys to do, we're going to do a close-up on the juices itself so you guys can see the difference. Alright, so now I want to explain what just happened in both juices. Once again, we start with the same juice. But when we were done, you guys maybe saw during the process some air bubbles coming up out of the pure juice and then basically forming bubbles on the top of the pure juice. But this one really didn't get any air bubbles on the top. So what happened? So as you guys saw in the previous test, this pump can pull out about 55% of the oxygen out of the container, which in this case pulls out 55% of the oxygen in the head space. Because the vacuum pressure is not enough, it cannot pull out the dissolved oxygen in the juice. The dissolved oxygen in the juice causes the juice to spoil, to go bad, to grow mold faster, right? So if you're just using a vacuum pump like this, you shouldn't store your juice more than a day, 2 or 3 days at the absolute most. Of course, you don't know how much vacuum you're pulling out. That other vacuum pump thing here, like this thing, put a very weak vacuum, like 8% oxygen removal. If you got a vacuum on this, you're thinking, I stored my juice good. No, you did a terrible job. Like, that's really not going to store well. Whereas on the pure pump, you know, in this test, when I tested it on the camera for you guys, it removes 75% of the oxygen. You know, some of the instances I've tested off camera, this got up to basically like 80% oxygen removal in the jar. So every time it basically is a bit different, but expect at least 75% oxygen removal. Because we remove up to 75% oxygen removal, it's like kind of like the Richter scale. Every time you go up a little bit more, it pulls out a lot more oxygen, and it also gets a lot more difficult for the resistance for the pumps, whether they're electric or manual. That's why you feel a lot of resistance. Anyways, at 75% oxygen removal, we remove the dissolved oxygen out of the juice. It bubbled up to the top that you guys may have seen on the close-up. And now we have all these bubbles on the top, which then were evacuated from the vacuum pump. So this really is the key to storing your food the longest, by using a powerful vacuum pump, not a weak one. The cheap ones from Amazon will not do to start removing the excess oxygen, the dissolved oxygen out of the juice. All right, so now I want to show you guys how to store your juices under vacuum. Most important thing when you're storing your juices under vacuum, generally I like to use the 32-ounce mason jars. The most important thing, guys, is that you can't fill it up to the top. The problem is, as you guys saw in this instance, and I've only filled it up like halfway, air bubbles come out and actually it'll expand. Some juices, like if I were to do tomato juice, that's going to expand a lot. You know, some other juices, you know, depending on what juicer you're using and the produce you're juicing, you know, may make a little foam or a lot of foam, may have a lot or a little dissolved oxygen. Obviously, if you're using like a high-speed juicer, puts a lot of oxygen in there, which degrades nutrients at the time you're making the juice, as well as afterwards during the storage. So it's always best to use the slowest RPM juicer that's going to minimally oxidize the juice when you're making it. Of course, Link down below to my last video where I talk about vacuum juicing, which is the way to put the least amount of dissolved oxygen in your juice to retain the most nutrition and get the highest yield. Nonetheless, when you vacuum store your juice, you don't want to fill it to the top. You don't even want to fill it to the line here. You know, I recommend at least filling it to like 800 milliliters or maybe even 700 milliliters. In this case, I did 700 milliliters. Then you're going to put the top on, and then you're going to go ahead and start pumping. So that's like pumped 25 times, as you guys can see. We'll give you guys a close-up there. You guys can see there's like air bubbles rising up. It hasn't risen up that much, so maybe this juice I could have went up to 800. But the thing is, like, depending on your juice, it may air bubble out a lot, and you don't want the air bubbles to kind of go up through the valve of the lid. You know, you're really going to have to learn what it is based on your specific recipe. In most cases, I fill up to 800, and I'm usually pretty good. With some exceptions, if I do straight cactus fruit juice, then I gotta like go down to like 700. Tomato juice obviously would be more difficult as well. And then what I like to do is if the air bubbles come up, they start to seep up right towards the top, I'll stop. Then I'll tap the juice down to try to get some of those air bubbles to dissolve out. Some new air bubbles will come up. Then I will go ahead and continue to pump. Oh yeah, look at that, guys. You guys can see that now. I got a lot more air bubbles to come out of the juice, right? This is why you don't want to fill it up to the top at the get-go, because all these air bubbles will now start shooting out the top. So once again, then I tap this down, wait a little bit, it kind of recedes down, then I'll start pumping again. So I'll repeat this process where I basically tap it down, let the air bubbles come up to the top, and then I'll basically pump some more. And I continue this process until no more air bubbles come out and I know that I've achieved maximum vacuum pressure. At that point, you can be confident that you've removed the most oxygen, up to 75 to 80% of the oxygen dissolved in the juice. That way, your juice is going to preserve longer. You know, like here's the thing. If you guys juice like apples and just put it in the fridge, right? Uncapped, that juice will turn brown very fast. That's because the polyphenol oxidase is reacting to the dissolved oxygen in the juice. But if you make that same apple juice, add a lemon at the time of juicing, then immediately after it comes out of the juicer, then put a vacuum on it like this, and then do multiple cycles to remove up to 70 to 80% of the oxygen, then that juice is going to very slowly turn brown, if at all. This is a technique I use when I juice sugarcane, which is known to oxidize very quickly if you just put a cap on it. But I'll put a bunch of lemon juice at the bottom, sugarcane, pull a strong vacuum, and I can store that juice easily a week with very minimal color change. It won't start to oxidize, it'll actually still stay yellow. And that is really the power of vacuum storage of your fruits, vegetables, prepared foods, salads, you know, smoothies or juices, right? You got to pull out the most oxygen if you want the best storability and most nutrition, also the best flavor, least mold growth. And in some cases, I pull out so much oxygen because it is an oxygen-deprived environment. It actually ferments in the jar. Actually, some of my sugarcane juices will do that. Also, of course, these valve lids can also be used for vacuum fermentation. They're stainless steel, of course, the safest lids money can buy. Of course, if you purposely ferment in here, you will have to go ahead and then put the pump on every once in a while and pump it because the CO2 will come out and want to get released, and then the vacuum will come out because you want to keep the air out so that the mold cannot grow. Nonetheless, in this episode, you guys learned about the best vacuum pump. You saw me compare it to some inferior pumps that you can buy on Amazon, whether electric or manual. You also learned about the best lids money can buy. So, I mean, at the end of this episode, I'm going to say, what are you waiting for? You know, if you guys want the best way to store your fruits and vegetables, juices, smoothies, dried goods, invest in the Pure Pump. It's literally a one-time purchase. It has a 2-year warranty with these lids that'll basically never fail. It's the last pump and lids you guys are going to have to buy because you're not going to be breaking the lids, bending the lids, or basically wearing out the seals like I have when you use this much extreme vacuum. Of course, if you're just like a lazy fair and you don't really care and you're not storing your juices for long, yeah, you could keep up with the cheap stuff. Once again, links down below to that. But if you guys want the very best, and that's what I'm all about, you definitely want to get the Pure MVP vacuum pump with the valve lids, which is my recommendation. The pump with 12 valve lids. Make sure you guys use the coupon code DJ5 to save $5 off your purchase over $100 and get free shipping as well. I really hope that in this episode you learned about the Pure MVP vacuum pump and what a game changer it is for not only people that juice, not only people that want to vacuum save their smoothies or other heat processed or raw foods. It's literally going to make your life easier and more healthy and delicious and nutritious, because you're going to preserve more nutrition by vacuum storing your food and save time by being able to juice a large volume at once, storing all your juices for up to 5 to 7 days, and they taste pretty much the same as when you stored them the first day. You know, I will batch juice my juice. You know, links down below some of my videos where I batch juice and then store it with the very Pure vacuum pump that you guys saw today. It's the best ways to do things. And so yeah, don't wait any longer. The best vacuum pump is here. Buy it now before it sells out. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode today, where you guys learned about the Pure vacuum pump as well as the Pure stainless steel 304 lids with silicone seals, as well as the cheaper alternatives on the market and the differences it can make by buying the right piece of equipment and tool the very first time. If you did, please be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. More importantly, share this with other people that want to store their food in mason jars to keep the most nutrition and remove the most oxygen. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss my new and upcoming episodes. I'll come out every 5 to 7 days. You never know what new appliances or products you will learn about to process your fruits and vegetables in the best ways possible. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as many videos come out. And finally, be sure to check out past episodes. Past episodes are a wealth of knowledge. Over 800 episodes at this time on this channel dedicated to you guys all about the different equipment to process your fruits and vegetables in the best ways possible. Links down below some of my videos I made in the past about vacuum storing your juices, as well as the Pure MVP vacuum pump. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for YouTube visitors.